Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. In this stream, we'll be talking about the Brighton game this coming Saturday. New signing Konstantinos Mavropanos, the potential newcomer Mohammed Kudus, the Ajax midfielder, and we'll also reflect on the win against Chelsea on Sunday, this previous Sunday. So let us know your thoughts, comments, questions in the live chat or in the comments below. It'd be great to read those. Today, joined by Mark, James from E20Zone Tv, and Tony from Early Doors Football TV. So links to their channels in the description below, and subscribe to Gash Football if you're new around here as well. So lads, thanks a lot for joining. A lot to get through, as always is, as a West Ham supporter. So let's talk about the Chelsea win. We've just been chatting it before we went live. So obviously a fantastic result, 3-1. First home game of the season, really can't complain. But Mark, I mean, obviously, yeah, I say great to get the 3 points, and the result was perfect to start. Our home campaign, 4 points from 2 games, really can't complain at all. We're just saying a lot better than last season already in terms of the start. But what did you make of that, the game itself, and West Ham's performance overall?
Yeah, well, thanks for inviting me back on, Bill. Really appreciate it as always, and always looking forward to having a little chat, all things West Ham. I mean, I think first of all, the result, brilliant to win is in any game is fantastic, and I think especially when it is your first home game of the season, I think it's always important to get off, the mark really early, irrespective of who the opposition are. Really, really pleased, as I say, with the win. In terms of the performance, for me, it was a bit of a strange game in terms of, I feel it was almost in sort of 3 parts, really. I think part one, for the first 15, 20 minutes, I felt you could see how we were going to play in terms of the standard David Moyes low block in on the edge of our penalty area, but there was a little bit of intent to try and get forward in that spell, and obviously, as we saw with the 2 warning, well, 1 warning with the first corner that Ward-Prowse took at Early Doors, and then obviously the one from that we scored with a fantastic header from Aguerd. But kind of like, in a way, that was probably then the worst thing that sort of happened, because it sort of almost kick-started Chelsea to totally dominate the rest of that half, really. I thought Sterling's performance in particular was fantastic. Sort of showed something kind of like his best that we've seen in the past. Obviously, hasn't happened for him too much at Chelsea, and he did get in behind quite a lot of times and caused a lot of trouble. So to be honest, I felt that we were lucky to probably actually be 1-1 at half time. As you know, Areola's fantastic penalty save. But I think on another day, if Chelsea had maybe actually had a centre forward on the pitch, I think we could have been, we could have been, 3-4, whatever down at half time, because they created so many chances and we barely got out of our half in that period, in my view. But obviously, second half, obviously without taking too much away from the other lads that are on, but obviously much improved both from a defensive aspect and offensively as well.
Yeah, no, bang on, mate. James, yeah, thanks for joining, mate. What were your thoughts on obviously the win against one of our London rivals?
I was impressed in the second half. I've got to be honest. First half, we come out, we scored early, and the only thing I didn't like in the first half is we scored early and then we shut up shop, and it was just basically defending for our lives. Chelsea were very good. Right, we've got to give them some credit. They were ripping us apart, and we rode our luck quite a lot in the first half. Great save from Areola for the pen. Second half was the West Ham that I've always wanted to see. That's the West Ham that I've always said that I think, you know what, if we can come out second half and play like that for 90 minutes, we're going to do a lot of damage this year. Obviously, Antonio's goal is massive, and obviously the Aguerd sending off is careless from him. But you know what I liked on Sunday more than anything? Even though we did get the win, I see the fight in the team. All the boys were fighting for the shirt and fighting for them points. And West Ham would have went down a few years ago at half time, and we would have lost the game 3 or 4. But I didn't see it in the second half. I see everyone fighting. They knew when they went down to 10 men, it was like, here we go, let's fight for this now. This is ours, sort of thing, yeah. And they did, and a lot of people were star men on the day, and it was brilliant to see.
Yeah. That's I think it's obviously a good sign, lads, when like you're trying to pick a man in the match and you've got quite a few options to pick from. So that's also a good sign. Sometimes, especially early on last season, we're like, well, Declan's played all right. Well, what about everyone else? Do you know what I mean? Whereas obviously Sunday was a good sign. Obviously, Tony, thanks again for joining, mate. I mean, obviously that penalty save from Areola from Fernandes in the first half, just before half time, was absolutely crucial in the context of the match. But also, do you think it's crucial in terms of Areola's confidence, as you know, it looks like he's going to be the #1 goalkeeper for West Ham this season?
Yeah, I believe so. I think it's quite a good move for Moyes to actually kind of give him game time. And I think Fabianski's probably, as much as he's got his toys out of the pram, I think he's going to be more involved in the Europe games, which is still a win-win in our eyes, I think. I don't know if you guys agree on that. But no, it's good Areola getting that chance. And it proved it. You know, the penalty save, a couple of the clearances before and that. But I agree with what James said earlier on. It was good to see us actually kind of show a bit of resolve, actually kind of a bit of fight, a bit of spirit. Because, yeah, is what he's saying. A couple of years ago and that, we would have just bent over backwards and just let them roger us left, right and centre, basically. Simple as that.
Yeah, no, totally. I think obviously there's a few nervy moments in the second half when the guy got sent off, and but apart from them, a few crosses in the box and a few nervy moments. When was Areola really tested? And I think that just obviously shows obviously how resilient and how determined West Ham were, and obviously what a good shape we got ourselves into. It's obviously a great win there for West Ham. So let's move on to one of our new signings from early in the week, Konstantinos Mavropanos, as I say, centre back, formerly of Arsenal, albeit played less than 10 games. So I'm not going to judge him on that spell. Albeit some people on Twitter or X, whatever it's called, judge him on that, which I find utterly bizarre. But more pertinently, he's played at Stuttgart last couple of seasons, and by the sound of it, has really rebuilt his career. So, James, what would you make? I mean, judging by his attributes and the fee as well, was it 17, 80 million? I think, to me, it looks like a really good bit of business from West Ham.
Really is, mate. Really is. Can't stress enough how good this geezer is, Mavropanos. He's played 80 games for Stuttgart over the last few years and scored 6 goals. And West Ham were going for Harry Maguire for 30 million. If someone would have said to me right now, you're going to go and get Kudus later on down the road, but you're going to get Mavropanos, I'd take that all day. West Ham, I've got good defensive cover there. And one thing with David Moyes, whether you like him or you don't, is he knows how to pick defenders. And he must have identified this geezer early. He obviously has the final say with Mavropanos. He don't really do bad with defenders. So I'll make mine pretty short and sweet. I'm very happy with the business. His stats in Germany look very, very good. And he's the sort of player we need. We need pace at the back. We're lacking in pace. And if Aguerd's not there, we have got no one really as a covering sort of centre half with pace to get back. So very happy with Mavropanos, mate. Yeah,
no, bang on, mate. I completely echo that. And also, Kurt Zouma was obviously skipping now by the looks of things, and he's obviously a top class defender. But obviously, we know last couple of seasons his injury record is ropey at best, isn't it? So we need someone of a good quality as a backup for certain. I mean, would you agree with that, Tony? You there, Tony?
I'm there, mate. Yeah. See, everyone else seemed to stop to that point.
I was just talking about Mavropanos. Obviously, with Zuma's injury record, we need someone of a decent enough standard as a backup, alongside obviously Ogbon and possibly Kera as well.
Yeah, I think it's decent cover. I mean, for his height and his abilities, what he's done since he's come back to Stuttgart, I think he's going to be a good addition for us. And at the fee, you can't really knock that. I mean, they just said, would you pay 30 million for Maguire that wants to be on big money, or someone who's on 17 million plus add-ons for silly money? It's a no-brainer, isn't it? Really, I think he's going to be a good player for us.
Yeah, no, totally. And Mark is obviously again someone of really good age, 25 years old. You like to think he's, his full potential will be at West Ham on a 5-year deal. So it's one of those where all the boxes seem to be ticked. I've got to say.
Yeah, definitely. I think you can't go too wrong. As you say, hopefully his best years are going to be ahead of him, and I think luckily for us, they're going to be they're going to be here. It wouldn't surprise me if we see a change, not necessarily this weekend against Brighton, but maybe in 2 or 3 games' time, where potentially I wouldn't be surprised if we go 3 at the back, just because I thought 5 at the back, depending on what way, 3-5-2, whatever way you want to call it. Just because obviously last year we saw Moyes use that tactic quite a lot, especially in the the first half of the season. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happened again this year with Dino. I'm going to call him Zuma and Aguerd being the 3, sort of starting centre halves. Then with Ogbonna and Kera sort of as your next 2 in line for that role. If that was the way that he was going to go, it wouldn't surprise me at all. And I think, as well, I think the other thing, my reasoning behind that is that I believe that Stuttgart have changed from 4 at the back to 3 at the back. So again, he's comfortable in doing that role, and obviously we already know clearly about Zuma and Aguerd in a 3 as well.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, that's by the sound of it, all the scouting and all the recruitment has been done properly, not just sign some of that thin air. Just I hope it works out. Looks like everyone's done their homework, which I like to think every club should do, especially in the Premier League. But obviously, famously, it's not the case. Right, let's talk about another potential signings. Mohammed Kudus, another Ajax midfielder. Obviously, we've got Alvarez from the Dutch side earlier in the window. He's actually playing tonight against Ludogorets in the Europa League qualifiers, and he's actually scored a hat-trick. I've just seen he scored his 3rd goal. I was about to say he scored twice tonight already. Now he's scored his 3rd goal. So, and Ajax are 4-0 up against Ludogorets. Tony, obviously, by the look of things, he's done well in the E20Zone, and he scored a number of goals in the Champions League last season. He looks a real find, and again, someone of a good fee as well. A really exciting addition potentially.
Yeah, well, you think you've had like Arsenal, and I think Liverpool. Wasn't it? I was looking at him, and for that kind of money, we've good luck's a charm. At the end of the day, if we get this over the line, then it's some good business from us, and more to come. Really, I think he's going to be a great addition. I mean, as you said, he's banged in 3 goals tonight already. It wouldn't surprise me. Ajax then suddenly put a couple of more million on top of him because of that. But yeah, I think it'll be a great addition. We can get it over the line. Fun enough, I had a Liverpool chat I was in earlier on in work, and they was just moaning like nobody's been. We were 3 weeks late to the party, and how much business we've done so far. They're impressed by what we've actually done, and that's quite good praise really from Liverpool or Liverpool fans, should I say?
Yeah. We left it late, but better late than never. Tim Steining's cooking finally. So, but I've just obviously reading about Kudus. Obviously, he's an attacking player, can play as a 10, as a winger, striker, and yeah, it seems obviously we've got Paqueta. Imagine, I'm just saying those. Obviously, assuming Paqueta doesn't get banned, obviously, but the idea of having Bowen and Paqueta, Kudus, maybe if we get a forward in, I don't know, just like it's incredibly obviously exciting. Yeah,
he's 23, isn't he as well? Is he 23?
Yeah,
he's 23.
Yeah, and another fantastic. Obviously, hopefully again, if we do get him over the line, hopefully he plays best football with us. But just someone a bit different who can dribble and and again someone who's as you saw in the Champions League, I think he got how many goals did he score? What was it? In 6 appearances, he scored 4 goals in the Champions League, and then 1 goal in the Europa League last season. Obviously, he's got a hat trick tonight against Ludogorets. So obviously, with European pedigree, we were just saying before we come on, the cup tied rule was abolished a few years ago, so he actually can still play for West Ham in the Europa League this season if he does get over the line. There's a bit of a twist though potentially with Kudus, because Ajax's manager is saying that he won't join West Ham until deadline day, because that's when the second leg of the Ludogorets tie is. But it'll be funny, they're 4-0 up with half hour to go at the time of the stream. I don't think they're going to need him for the second leg, personally. They'll be at home second leg as well. So, I mean, he's clearly I think he wants to come anyway, by the sound of things. I think he's even more desperate. The fact he's got a hat-trick. I see it, guys. You through to the group stage, but I'm off ski kind of thing. But Mark, obviously, obviously, like all of us, like any West Ham fan on Twitter, X, whatever, on Facebook, whatever, YouTube, everyone's buzzing about the idea of signing Kudus, and the fact it's so close is obviously incredibly would be fascinating to see if it does get over the line.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's always, for 99% of signings, I think there's always a big buzz around whoever it is that you're signing, and I think definitely Kudus does tick those boxes. I was looking at some stats of him earlier that since the 21-22 season, he's spent about 40% of his game time on the right-hand side of a sort of like an attacking three, which I found quite interesting, especially considering Moyes' comments a few weeks ago that he's potentially talking about putting Bowen up as a centre forward. Whether or not if that that's what his plan is going to be, and obviously remains to be seen. But I did find that quite interesting to read that. But I think the other thing as well that I think is quite important as well is that as he does play on that side of the pitch, is that it actually gives us some genuine competition on that side as well. Because I think if you look last year, there wasn't really anybody else other than Bowen in the squad who played on that right-hand side. And I'm not saying that we should be considering dropping Bowen or anything like that, but I think that competition for places is healthy. Obviously, as you mentioned before, I think he's played about 20% of his game time as a centre forward as well. So again, we have got a different option, and I think that's good. But yeah, as obviously has already been mentioned there, that the attacking threat that we've potentially got now, I mean, it is genuinely really exciting, and I think that when teams come up against us, they'll be thinking, "Oh, don't fancy it today against them." You look at Antonio, Bowen, Ben Rama, Paquetá. It's really exciting, and it's the sort of as a fan as well. They're the sort of players as well that I think they're going to get you off your feet. And fully behind the team and getting a good atmosphere going. And fingers crossed it does get over the line. As you said, I don't think he's going to be there till the second leg if they're already 4-0 up. I mean, unless there's a major collapse for Ajax. Yeah, exactly, but I mean, I'm really looking forward to watching him play. I mean, the stuff that I've read, it certainly sounds an exciting player, and I think that again, as we know, Moyes does like us to play a little bit on the counter, and I think he's going to fit in fantastically well into that way of playing as well. So yeah, really looking forward to it, and just hope it does definitely happen.
Yeah, 100%. And for you, James, obviously you must be excited as well.
Statement signing, mate. 100%. This is the man who's going to take West Ham to the next level all day long. For me, I said it last night with the lads on E20. Yeah, I want West Ham to start going up to another level. Signings like this at 22, 23 years old, he's the next level for me. Yeah, we've got to be signing these players now. We can't keep buying people who are sort of 30 years old and give them a couple of years because they've got no sell-on value. I think Kudus is going to be special for us. I think he's the sort of player that Moyes likes. He likes hard working. He's a good attacker. He scores goals. He don't just score goals. He scores all types of goals. He's everywhere, and he's non-stop. And he's a very, very good player. For the fee we're getting him at, I think it's like £38 million. I think it's an absolute bargain. West Ham need to get this done. If they fail to get this one done, then it will be a scattergun approach to try and cover it. Do you know what I'm saying? So West Ham, they've identified this man for a long time. Go and get him, get it done. And I'll tell you what, the fan base will absolutely adore this man because I think he's going to be very, very special.
Oh, fantastic. Well, hopefully that proves to be the case. But obviously, the problem with any transfer now, and especially with their lack of FFP and a longer transfer window, is the Saudi factor. Apparently, a couple of Saudi clubs are interested in Kudus as well. So even someone mentioned interested in Mohammed Salah today. So do you know what I mean? Like, that is. Do you know what I mean? So that, obviously that's obstacles that last season, a couple of seasons ago, Saudi Arabia clubs wouldn't be even been on the radar, but obviously that majorly is now. So yeah, if we could get them over the line, that'd be Absolutely incredible. So before we touch on Brighton, if you're watching it, thanks to everyone that's watching. Like the video and subscribe if you're new, and to the boys, their channels down below as well to subscribe to them. So let's finish off with our Brighton preview. Mark, obviously, infamously, every time we play Brighton, the same thing gets, which I'm about to repeat, is we've not beaten Brighton and Hove Albion since they got promoted to the Premier League. Last time we beat them was in the Championship in 2012 or something like that.
Yeah,
so
that's hat-trick.
Go back, when you got 2 digits to say last time we beat someone, you know it's bad, don't you? So, but yes, I mean, obviously, and they've got a brilliant, perfect start, 6 out of 6. They've scored 8 goals, albeit, okay, look, Luton and Wolves, let's have it right, they're both going to be down near the bottom, I assume, this season, but still, and especially with Thomas' goal against Wolves was out of this world, how crazy good that was. But, I mean, do you have any hope? Obviously, look, we've got 4 points from 2 games, but obviously, unlike Chelsea, you like to think if Brighton get through on goal like Chelsea did, they'll actually put their chances, or they'll score more than 1 goal against us. And obviously, they're playing at the Amex where they're very strong. So it's a tough ask for West Ham, though.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I'm hoping that Brighton have an off day, to be honest, and that their key players, obviously that we all know about, aren't quite at the races. I think the one thing for me that's really important, and in the away game last year, there was obviously it was a very poor result. Was it 4-0? I think in the end, but we just seem to have a mixture of playing styles, and I don't think the players quite knew whether or not if they were meant to be going to press with Brighton, or whether or not if we're meant to be doing the more traditional, form of tactic that Moyes likes to employ, which is that low block and try and get teams on the counter. So first of all, I hope that he doesn't do the high press, because you need to do it more than just and it just confuses players, and it just sends out the wrong message, because it doesn't. You need. It's not something that you can just practice on 1 week in training. You've got to do it. Almost for the entirety of your pre-season, if that's the way that you're going to play. In my view, so that's the first thing that I would say. But yeah, I mean, I know I said I hope that Brighton have an off day. I mean, for sure, there's always hope in every game you go into, and you've always got a chance. Because as I said before, you look at our attacking talent. There's not going to be too many teams, I don't think, that are going to fancy coming up against us either this year. We've probably got a couple of things I feel defensively that we could work on. I know I don't think he's going to play as Aguerd, obviously because of the red card on Sunday. But there has been a couple of times when that ball has been slid in a little bit too easily between the centre back and the left back for me, and that's an area that we definitely need to tighten up on, not just on Saturday against Brighton, but in general looking ahead. So he needs to get that tightened up, because we know the threat that Brighton have. They like to try and get their fullbacks right high up the pitch. But there's nothing there for me that, Brighton are a very good team. But I think, we can look at ourselves, 4 points on the board. We can go there with nothing to fear in my view. And at some point, we've got to break this horrific record, and why not this weekend?
Yeah, every time the stat gets read, and the end of the sentence is eventually we've got to beat them. Well, how many times are we going to keep saying it?
I mean, at this point, I would literally take a point against them.
No, I totally agree.
But I would just to stop the some sort of rot, because we always it doesn't matter what we do, but we hopefully we get 3 points for sure.
Well, obviously, plus they did the double over us, and even the home game, it was only 2-0, but they pissed all over. It should have been 4-0, 5-0. They pissed all over us. So we were shocking that day anyway. But I'd certainly take a point. They had 5 points from 3 games, 2 of them being away games. I'd certainly say that. But just actually, before I go to the others, Mark, obviously we've got to make an enforced change with obviously Aguerd's second yellow. He got sent off, so we missed the game. Obviously, Angelo Bonner come on on Sunday. So, would you start Angelo on Saturday, and would you make changes in any other positions?
I don't think I'd make changes in. I think the thing is, I think a lot of it would depend on how fit they consider Dino to be. Whether or not if he's ready to go straight in or not for me, because I was saying before, it wouldn't surprise me if we do see a switch in.
Oh God, I hope West Ham don't freeze like Mark has just done. We'll come back to Mark. James, I mean, obviously it's going to be a tough game for West Ham on Saturday against Brighton. But how would you play? Would you do it how West Ham played it in the maybe second half deep, but we attack, we counter, or would you want us to sort of press from the front and sort of attack Brighton from their goal kicks or whatever?
I think you're going to see the real West Ham. This is the real test for me. We go to Brighton and we perform at Brighton, then this is a different West Ham team altogether. It's like, listen, the curse is real when it comes to Brighton. We just can't beat this team for love or money. Yeah. But one thing I will say is, if we go to Brighton and we play it like we did in the second half, I think we can get a positive result. If we give Brighton too much respect, then they're just going to pass it around us, and then it's going to be a matter of time. It's going to be interesting for me when West Ham concede first this season, because West Ham haven't conceded first in both games, and if West Ham concede first, I need to see something from this team. I think it's okay when you go a goal up because you've got that cushion. Yeah, it's when you go a goal down, have you got the power to try and come back into the game? Yeah. So it's going to be an interesting game. Definitely, Brighton impressed me. I like their model. I like their manager. I like the way they do business. I think Brighton as a club is a decent club in the way that they run. They've got a good infrastructure and a good training base, everything. But I'm quite confident, mate. If I'm being honest, it's the first time I'm ever really confident with West Ham going to Brighton. But I don't fear Brighton like I would have done a few years ago. I think West Ham can go there, and West Ham have got good players. If Ward-Prowse starts and Alvarez, for me, Alvarez I think should be the centre half. Alvarez and Zuma together, because Alvarez has played centre half before for Mexico. Yeah, and then I'd keep the midfield as it is and not risk Angelo Bonner. I think if you go with Angelo Bonner, for me, I think it's only a matter of time before they're going to get him behind him. Like, do you know what I'm saying? And Anzo's good, don't get me wrong, and he's been a great servant to West Ham. But I think Alvarez is just a different level of player for me. And as a centre half, he's done it for Mexico multiple times. He can do one game for West Ham, in my opinion. So I'm quietly confident, mate. But West Ham, this will show me if this is a new West Ham this season. Because if they go there and win, then something special could be happening at West Ham this season. If they go there and lose, it doesn't really change a lot for me.
Yeah, no, bang on, mate. Mark, so I'm saying I hope West Ham don't freeze like Mark says on the screen. I think you were just talking about Mark before you went about any potential changes you might have made.
Yeah, obviously I just caught the end there of James with Alvarez, which I thought was quite interesting. I hadn't thought of that myself actually, and it would make sense to put him in there. I don't think Moyes would do that. I think he's more likely to go with a Bonner more than anything. I was trying to think of a way whether or not if we could go three at the back. With Ogbonna, Zuma, and Dino being the three, but in all honesty, I think that would be quite a ballsy selection decision to make, and then you're then having to try and work out. Well, he's not going to drop Souček from midfield. I think that certainly at this moment in time, he would be crazy to drop Ward-Prowse. And he's clearly, and understandably, because he's probably our best player, you're not going to drop Paquetá. So which one of your three centre midfield players? So I think he'll probably play it safe, and I think that he'll go Ogbonna to just that one change. I can't see there being anything else, to be honest. Which would be a shame, because I thought that when Alvarez come on Sunday, I thought his cameo, he made a couple of good interceptions, a couple of good tackles. And you could clearly see why we've gone and paid the money that we have for him. But I would be surprised if he played, if he starts on Saturday.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I actually would play Alvarez from the start. I would play him in midfield. I think because of Brighton's movement of all their attackers, No, obviously Welbeck. Danny Welbeck likes to go in behind, but likes to drop deep. And Sensio, Solly March on fire. He's got, I think, 3 goals already this season, and obviously Matoma's got that worldie against Wolves. So I think that gap between our centre backs and midfield, that's where they're going to be. And I think we need Alvarez there, because I think Ward-Prowse and Souček can do a job there, but we need someone who's going to sniff out danger. And obviously Brighton are going to be full of danger, obviously, at home on Saturday. And I'd be tempted to actually drop or rest Benrahma and stick Pakasar out wide and have Antonio and Bowen, and still have Souček, Ward-Prowse in the team as well. And I'd probably play Angelo, actually, just from a left-footed option. Unless Mavropanos, if he's fit and available, then I'd chuck him straight in. Why not? But we'll see. Nice to have options, lads? So, Tony, what change would you make on Saturday, and what your hopes of getting a result?
I think obviously the main thing is we're all in agreement. We'd love to see Alvarez start, because I think that would be the ideal choice, because for what he did on that.
It's the curse of talking about Brian.
Moise, he likes the. Is it my turn?
Yeah, go on, mate. Keep going. Sorry, yeah.
Oh, has he gone again?
Go on, while waiting for time, what's your score predictions? Mark, do you want to go?
Oh, blimey. It's a tough one, to be honest. I mean, I do fancy us. I think, as James was just saying, I think we'll find out quite a lot about us this season, in terms of potentially where we could end up as across the season, and how successful or not we're going to be. And as I said in my bit at the beginning there, that why not? Why can't we break the hoodoo this weekend? So I'm gonna go with an away win. I'm not going to give a score as such, but I'll fancy us for a couple of goals for us, I think.
A couple of goals. That's better than last season, anyway. James, how about you?
I think she's got a banker draw for me, mate. All over it. I don't think West Ham are that sort of team are going to easily give away goals this year. I think West Ham are quite an hard nut to crack. Like, even Chelsea found it in the second half against us with 10 men. So I think this is a banker draw. I'd like to see us go there and win, but we just don't win at Brighton. That's just the thing. But if we did get a draw there and it was a good draw, I can accept that, because I can see something coming together. I would really like to see Alvarez play. I think if you play Angelo Bonham in this game, for me, I think with tricky plays, he's a bit too slow to react. Yeah, even though he's a good general, he's a good player to bring on for the last 10 minutes to see a game out. But to start a game with Brighton players playing around him, it could cause him a lot of aggravation. But for me, I think it's a banker draw for me all day long. I think West Ham will go there and definitely get something, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, no, I agree. I'm going to go for 1-1, which I'll take your hand off for that. Tony, sorry, mate, you're back now. So, what are your thoughts on any changes, and obviously on the game against Brighton itself?
Yeah, I mean, if he goes with Bonner, I think the only thing I'd see more than anything else, I agree with your one, Benrahma, put him on the bench, and I actually would put Ward-Prowse out on wide, and then I'll have Paqueta with Souček, and I'll have Alvarez just sitting in front, just behind them. So he's just sitting in front of the back three. We go with a 3. That's my only change I'd see. But other than that, I'll go with all you guys, 1-1. I think if you look at it, the fact that we've had 4 points, so we're better off from last season.
Yeah. And
Moyes has actually beaten Pochettino, which he's never really done in all the times he's played him. So I agree with James. I think Adlack's looking a little bit better this season. It's looking a lot better.
Yeah, hopefully so. Right, let's go to the chat quickly. Thanks, Russ. Russ is an Arsenal fan, so in my excellent going on. So Mavropanos will do all right. He's a big lad who doesn't shy away from a challenge. Well, that's great to hear that. So thanks for that, Russ. So anything else you boys want to touch on? Any other rumours? Any gossip? Anything else you want to touch on?
What about this El Nesri thing? Do you think there's anywhere? Sorry, James. Sorry, mate. Go on, you go first.
I'd like to ask all you lads what your honest opinion is with Moyes. Like, because obviously people know me from doing the spaces. Obviously, I do things on my channel.
Yeah.
And like my channel is very open into sort of having major discussions about the Moyes in, Moyes out thing. So I'd like to hear what you lads have got to say in regards to Moyes, because as I say, I do a lot of spaces. A lot of people do back the man. A lot of people really cannot stand the man.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see what you think.
Definitely. Tony, do you want to go first on that one?
Yeah, I think he probably got a buy because obviously, winning the Europa Conference. But I think he definitely was on his way out. But the man's kind of rewritten himself a little bit. He wants to play more attacking football this season, and we are seeing a little bit of that. So I'm kind of I'll be cagey in that. I'm going to sit on the fence on this one. I think I gave him last season, if you look at the new season, I give him 5 to 10 games. If he got nothing out of it, he'll be gone. But he's actually kind of getting people thinking, I don't know, maybe they're saying here, we're getting the right players in. And we're actually, as James mentioned, the second half, it was typical old West Ham. We saw a couple of seasons back. So things are looking promising. So I'm sitting on the fence.
Still though, good points though, mate, even though you've got some splinters. So Mark, what do you think?
I've always been a Moyes in man. I felt he was very harsh, without going back too much over old ground when he lost the job. The first time around, I thought that he deserved a bit more respect and an opportunity actually to take us on from keeping us up, say first time around. But there was a point, I think it was Leicester, wasn't it? It was the last game before the World Cup that I think everyone was, the dreaded 6-pointer, and we were awful. And I must admit, at that point, my opinion had very much changed on him, and I was very much a Moyes out at that point. And even obviously, as we mentioned earlier, the 4-0 loss against Brighton, I felt then that he probably should have gone. And I think the only thing actually that kept him in a job was the Europa Conference run. I think if we were out of Europe at any point, I think he probably would have got sacked last year. And I think that winning the Europa League, the Europa Conference, maybe that's going to happen this year. The Europa Conference, I think maybe has kept him in a job for this season. The only thing that I would say, I feel a little bit sorry for him to a certain extent. He's got 1 year left on his contract. Who knows whether or not if that's going to be extended. It must be frustrating for him knowing that he's potentially only got 12 months. But I think for him to stay in a job beyond that time, I think, we know he's very good at organising defences. And I think he has generally got a good eye for a player. But I think with the players that we've got now, I'm not saying in every game, because I don't feel that West Ham are maybe quite ready yet to go toe-to-toe with the more footballing teams in this league. We all know, your Arsenals, your Cities, even Liverpool to maybe to a slightly lesser extent. Brighton, yeah, definitely, yeah. Sorry I can't believe I forgot about them, but yeah. But I think certainly against, teams that you would look at that perhaps are on, West Ham's sort of like level and obviously the teams below that. So I'm looking at, your Bournemouths, your Lutons, even like Wolves and all those sort of teams. I feel that he does need to be prepared to try and play a little bit more of an expansive game, especially at home, because, you want to get on the front foot as the home team. And, look at the players that we've got. We've got 2 fantastic flair players. Obviously, Paqueta, plays in Brazil's midfield. You've got Ben Rama, I'm looking at, as well, that can open up defences. So it's not like we haven't got the players to go and try and play a more expressive way of playing. So I think he does need to try and evolve his style. But unless, of course, for sure, if we get to Christmas, for example, we're in the bottom 3, then I think then a a major rethink then would have to happen. But I think for now, I think he deserves an opportunity to try and improve the playing style of the team, and hopefully, translate that into, a season that will see us sort of challenging for the top half this year. I think that's a realistic target for us.
See, the thing is, right, I do a lot of the spaces, as you gentlemen know, and I do speak to a lot of younger fans, and a lot of younger fans say, why are the older generation? I will say it's quite openly, that a lot of it's a generational thing. Like the younger fans, anyone from sort of 15 up to about 23, they idolise David Moyes. They think West Ham in Europe 3 times in a row, semi-final, final. He's like God to them, yeah. And then there's people who look at it on the other side of the fence and go, it's the playing style. Now, for me as a 36-year-old man, I've seen all types of style and all types of different managers over the years, yeah, with West Ham. I can accept one bad season at West Ham with an end goal of winning a trophy. And I do agree with you, if he didn't win the trophy, he would have been gone. Yeah. I think the trophy saved his job, really. I think 7th of June, if that fails, then I think he's gone, he's out the door. But I do speak to quite a lot of people, and a lot of people really are like, do not want this man here. Like, he's the worst thing going. Now, for me personally, I was like you, Mark, yeah. After the Leicester game, I was like, that's enough. He's got to go. Like, that's it. And there was a few games that saved his job, really. The Everton game, Nottingham Forest, Fulham away when he won that 1-0. And we grinded it out at the end, yeah. But for me, when I look at David Moyes, I think West Ham fans get a bit divided by style of play and winning football matches, because I've seen West Ham have really good teams back in the day, win games, but not look like getting anywhere in any sort of cup competition. So I think his style is a bit old. It needs to be revamped. I will say that, but I do think what he does, he can't play like a Pep, or he can't play like a Ten Hag, or
not many can, James.
That's what I'm saying. So he's got his way of doing it, and that's the problem. Like, and it's just, I do face a generational thing with the Moyes in, Moyes out debate, and that's what I found on all the spaces that I do.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I echo what you boys have said. I think that I like David Moyes. You look at his achievements at West Ham. He's kept us up twice when we looked pretty, I wouldn't say certain to go down, but very likely, and 2 top 7 finishes, which we've never done in our entire history, not just Premier League, entire history, right? First trophy in 43 years. Yeah, look, I think the playing style is a little bit, for me, the question is a little bit redundant, because like, it's not amazingly eye-catching, but it's not that bad either. It's just because like everyone wants a silky way of playing. Not a lot of teams can do that. Do you know what I mean?
I think it depends who you're playing against. Like what Mark said, I do make Mark right. Mark said something along the lines of, like, if you're playing Luton or Bournemouth, you shouldn't be having 25% possession. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you should have more than that, right? And the thing is, West Ham should be imposing themselves more in games rather than sitting there against Chelsea. Chelsea were very good in that first half. If they would have took their chances, we would be sitting here in a different mindset, but they didn't. And the second half of that game, you just see a completely different West Ham. I think Moyes wants to attack, but he's trying to adapt to that at the minute. He's trying to get the players in to fit the style that he sees in his head. I think some things that Moyes does in regards to signings and like personnel, and saying that he can't find another striker because like he's got Mikel Antonio and that's the only man he can find on the planet. I do find that quite comical. I ain't gonna lie, but I think he needs to be given benefit of the doubt. In my opinion, I think last season it needs to be a clean slate. You've won a trophy. This season we're unbeaten in 2, and like even after the Bournemouth game, I've done a space and people were going mad because we drew with Bournemouth, and I'm thinking, let's give it time. Do you know what I'm saying? But yeah, I think he's learning he's learning a new way, David Moyes.
Yeah, and I think under Slaven Bilic and even Gianfranco Zola, we played some nice football. Like, but look how shit we were in. Obviously, Bilic's first season was fantastic. Look how shit we stunk the place out afterwards. Yeah, Zola nearly got nearly relegated us. Do you know what I mean? So Pellegrini, to a certain extent, was okay, pleasing on the eye, but again, second season wasn't very good at all. We were wide open. At least Moyes has that bit of discipline, which any club needs. And unlike you, Marvs, I actually left it a bit late. I was more the Brentford game was for me with Moyes out. But look, we got some results second half of the season. It wasn't amazing on the eye, but we needed to get those must-win games. We did win. And look, no matter what happens this season, he's delivered us our first trophy in 43 years, and I think every West Ham fan should be thankful for that. Do you know what I mean? Because there we go. And also, like, I think there will be a change at some point, whether it's at the end of the season or whatever. But I wouldn't just make a change. Look at I think how many changes of manager were there last season? 12, 13? It was pathetic how many there was. And that was just a few of them at Chelsea. But still, like, look at what Leicester did with sacked Brendan Rodgers. Okay, they weren't going great. Sacked him. Who'd they get in? Dean Smith. What a shocking appointment that was. So if there's someone of really good, of the higher caliber, plays better football and is a better manager than Moyes, technically, I'd be like, yeah, let's get him in. Apart from that, if there's no one good enough, which is why they probably kept Moyes, I'd be like, well, Moyes is good enough for me. That's what I think anyway. I think
what it is, you are gonna see a bit of a dilemma with West Ham this year, though, in regards of that, because if West Ham are doing well, if West Ham are far enough away from relegation and they're doing well in all the cup competitions, then the first thing that's going to be mentioned is this man going to get an extension? And it's like there is a divide. There is a divide there, and at the end of the day, I think leaving it to the end of the season is a bit wrong to a point, because he's building a side for himself now. Like the players that he's bringing in, like the Ward-Prowses and Mavropanos, like Moyes is obviously sanctioning them players to come in. So it's going to be interesting to see how this goes in the next sort of 5-6 months. Because if West Ham are high up, doing well, people are going to be saying, well, you need to give them an extension. You know what I'm saying?
I think you're. Oh, sorry. I think you're right on the extension now. I think when we get to that, not because there's an international break, isn't there, in a couple of weeks, but I think when we get to the one, if not October, definitely November, I think that's when the the drum will be beating, so to speak, in regarding the contract extension. And I think you're totally right. If we're doing well, if we're saying that sort of top 8, say come November, it wouldn't surprise me at all, and I wouldn't be totally against it. I know I said I was probably Moyes out at Christmas, but he, credit to him, because he did get us out of a hole. But I think if we're into that sort of roughly that area, sort of top 8, definitely by November time, then it wouldn't surprise me if he does then get offered a couple of years extension. I don't think you could really have too many complaints. Obviously, as we've said, first trophy in 40 odd years, certainly the first trophy I've seen in my lifetime. Which, if I'm honest, I'd given up the ghost. I didn't think we was ever going to win anything, to be fair. But I think, I think as well, he deserves a little bit more respect that he is getting. Obviously everyone takes the mickey out of him with the transfers, Divering Dave and all that. But, all of a sudden, we're looking who we've just signed, Ward-Prowse, Alvarez, Dino. Looks like we're going to get Kudus in as well. And suddenly everyone's, what a great window we've had, and obviously we've still got another 15 days or so roughly, and suddenly Moyes is, I'm not sure if Moyes is going to get the credit for us having such a good window, or whether or not if it's going to be with Timmy Steiden and and Mark Noble, whether or not they're the ones that are going to get the credit. But I think for the moment, I think he deserves the time, the opportunity to try and take us on and hopefully, hopefully have a much better league season this year. And good luck to him, because whilst he's in charge, I think he's got to have the full support of everybody. For sure, we can all have our opinions on whether or not if he's in or out, but you've got when it's the 90 minutes on the pitch, you've got to get behind him and the team at the end of the day.
Oh yeah, but Fan Sunday did on Sunday against Chelsea. This is a really good shout. Thanks for us, Graham Potter. I mean, for me, I'd be all over that personally, but
Potter plays the same way, though, mate. Potter plays the same way as Moyes, really. When you sort of really go into it and dive into it, Moyes and Potter ain't really far apart. It's just Potter done very well at Brighton because the infrastructure of Brighton and the players that they're bringing in and delivering to him on a plate. I think if you go for Potter, yeah, it's okay, but like at the minute, I think Moyes has done enough just to justify this season.
Of course, yeah.
And I think if he does well this season, people are going to have to stand back and go, I can accept one bad season. Because if they can't accept one bad season at West Ham, then they shouldn't be West Ham fans.
Go support someone else.
They really shouldn't. You know what I mean? But it's just, you know, and that's what I'll be honest with you, like, and that's what baffles me a little bit because we've all seen bad seasons. We have, like wherever you like, whatever generation you are, whether like the 90s or the noughties or whatever, we've all seen at least like one or if not 10 bad seasons at West Ham. But I just think if you can't accept one bad season with a trophy at the end of it, then there is something really drastically wrong. Like really, like
yeah. I wouldn't be again. I like Potter. I think he did a really, really good job at Brighton, and I think he did evolve that team a little, over time from what Chris Hughton was doing. I think it's, without a doubt, I think taking the Chelsea job last year and getting the sack has put a huge dent into his reputation. Especially as well with the crazy transfer policy that was going on there last year. You sort of then just think, is he then just the yes man? And I think that's what we've previous West Ham managers, I think in the past, have been accused of that. And we know that, what our fan base can be like at times if they think that is the case. But I think as James said, I think, we've had, Moyes has had one bad season since he's come back. Admittedly, he got a trophy at the end of it, which, that's a bad season. Bloody hell, I wouldn't want to see a really, a good season. Bloody hell. I mean, I think I would have snapped your hands off at the start of the season if you told me you were going to win a trophy. Yeah. But I think, I think ultimately you've got to see where you are in sort of this time next year with Moyes, whether or not if you decided to keep him on or not. And I mean, obviously, as you just mentioned there before, Bill, sort of 12, 13 managers that were sacked last year. I mean, if we get anything like that again, then you can bet your bottom dollar that Potter would be one of those managers, in the mix for the job. So he might not even be available, assuming, of course, that Moyes is obviously doing well at that point. But you know what I'm getting at. So, yeah, I think he'd be one to watch to see what happens with him if you are thinking of making a change in the future.
Yeah, I think with Moyes, you're saying, James, about fans, or some fans just against it. I think some fans didn't want Moyes first time round. Some didn't want him second time round. And no matter what, those fans, no matter what he does, will never be good enough for them. Do you know what I mean? Like, they'll put up with him, but then as soon as we lose a few games, they're on him. I think even if we, I actually think even if we finish in the Champions League places, top 4 or 5 or whatever, I don't think that'd be good enough for something. We were like, we should have changed for it's never good enough. Do you know what I mean? I find it a little bit ridiculous, really, saying that.
It is bad, mate. I'm going to be honest. Like, there is certain people that I've done spaces with who are very much Moyes out and massively Moyes out people, and I hear what they're saying. Don't get me wrong. The style of play can be a problem for West Ham, especially if you're playing against these lower end teams. And my attitude is with West Ham. West Ham's a big club to me, and they should be a big club to everyone. Right? But some of the fans don't really believe that we're a big club. Now, for me, when you're getting 60,000 plus week in, week out, you're going around Europe, and it ain't like, you look at Prague, look at the East End London after the final. I would say West Ham are pretty much a big club, and I just feel people have got to understand that in life things happen, and it ain't how you sort of deal with it at the time. It's how you get over that sort of hurdle and go on to the next thing. Do you know what I'm saying? And if Moyes does well this season, he deserves a bit of respect. And listen, I've been Moyes out since Leicester. I have. I've said it quite openly on E20 with the boys, and I've got people in there who are very much Moyes in. Like, no, he's one of us. Like, look what he's done over the last 3 years. I think time will tell, but he deserves a bit of respect, and I think he deserves time. He doesn't deserve to be just chucked out the door. I think winning the trophy, give him that time, and I think he deserves it.
Yeah, no, completely agree. Tony, your thoughts on Moyes?
Yeah, I think if I agree with what Mark said. If he's doing all well, it's fine. But if it's kind of going sour near towards the end, we've got to do it early. We've got to get someone in early. We can't muck around like we did last time and wait till the last minute and then we're in shit street. We really need to, if it goes the wrong way, we've got to get someone else in to replace Moyes sharpish. Can't hang around in like December time because that's too late. Hopefully we don't do a Sam Moore like they do with Leeds with 4 games and then hope that Stan Allardyce is going to come in and save us again. Hopefully that's not going to be the case. But I think with Moyes, I think he has kind of a little bit. He's thought about this season. He's obviously. It seems like he's learnt from last season, and he is trying to play more kind of attacking, creative football, which is good to see for a change. Because last season, I don't think we won as much as James said. We expect it from West Ham, but hopefully that was just kind of blip. We move on there because there has been progression the last 3-4 years. Last season was that blip. So hopefully we can just carry on from there and move forwards.
Yeah, completely. Right, let's go to the Czech.
We'll add on to that as well, though. You've got to think, considering the crap season we had and we walked away with a cup, we could be the other team that had 93% of the league and won nothing. I'm
going to Russ to come back in the chat about that. Right, let's go to the chat, actually. So, Blue Players, thanks, mate. X just said Steiner's in Bulgaria. Well, that's interesting because obviously Ajax are playing Ludogorets, a Bulgarian side, and that finished 4-1, by the way. So that's good to know. Thanks, mate. So Russ, if you guys pull off the sign off Kudus from Ajax, do you think Moyes will use him properly? Well, I hope so, Tony.
Yeah, I think he will do. That's what he's got. Yeah, we ain't buying him for no other reason but to either be attacking out on the wing or up top. And going by what he's done tonight, that's the reason why we're getting him. There's no other reason. It's just it's a strong addition to the squad, and it just lifts us even higher than what we are. So yes, it's a no-brainer, isn't it? It's as simple as that. You get the man in.
Yeah, I think. I mean, Mark is obviously. I don't think it's just we've seen him, and that's. I think by the sound of it, we looked at him for quite a while, and then if we haven't, then surely obviously more saying no, Mark. He surely knows how to use him properly.
Yeah, I think he will use him properly. The only thing, as we know, whenever Moyes 9 times out of 10 signs a player, he likes to integrate them into the team. So I haven't got a huge problem with that to an extent. But I think when you're signing a player of this guy's quality. And clearly the pedigree that he's got. I mean, he got 18 goals in all competitions last year for Ajax. I think, and as James said, he certainly sounds like that he's going to be like that next level player. That we've obviously been, craving. I think really, almost like a talisman for us on the pitch. Yeah. And I think you've almost got to, bite the bullet and put him in from the start because, as I said before, I think as fans, we really do want to see players that are going to get you off your feet and do something, exciting on the ball. And I think he will fit that bill perfectly. So if it happens, which it sort of sounds like it's getting ever closer, then yeah, I'm really looking forward to watching him play for us. Yeah,
absolutely. And James, obviously, we've spoke glowingly about him, but yeah, if he's used properly, then he's going to light up the Premier League by the sound of it.
I think he's going to be brilliant, mate. I think also having Edison Alvarez there, he's like colleague from Ajax. I think that's another major thing that brings him in. It settles him in a lot better, knowing the man and being working with the man for a good few years. I can't stress enough how much Kudus is going to change West Ham. I've done a space last night, and people were talking about it last night, and I look at him and I think he can play anywhere along the front line. He can play in a 2, he can play right wide, he can play an attacking midfielder. He's got versatility, this geezer, and what I like about that is he can go anywhere and he can cover even in game. So if you're playing Antonio up front and Kudus is playing on the left and you want to change it around, you can put Bowen up front, Kudus on the right, you can change it around, and that's what I like. Moyes, for how much I do knock him on certain transfers, I will say one thing: if he goes for versatile players that are very, very good, then we can accept that as fans. Because even the fee for this man is nice for West Ham. So
Well,
what
it's
we
been up,
saved,
isn't it?
what we saved on Harry Maguire by getting Mavropanos is basically going on this man, and rightfully so.
Yeah, that's spot on. Great. Well, we'll be an hour. An hour was absolutely flown by, lads. So thanks a lot for joining us. I really appreciate it. Thanks everyone for watching as well. Yeah, just hopefully West Ham could get the job done against Brighton on Saturday, which at the start when the fixtures come out, I was like, for fuck's sake, Brighton third game. But now it's like, okay, Brighton third game, 4 points from 2, bring it on, kind of thing. It shows how a couple of results can change things so quickly. Great. Well, thanks, lads, for joining. We'll see you soon. So thanks everyone for watching. Subscribe to Gage Football if you know. Subscribe to James and Tony's channels as well, and we'll see you soon. Take care. All the best.